update.
You always see me.
It's 9:30 and the meeting will begin, and we're starting with Wally Condon for policy manual update.
Yeah. Sure. Didn't have much choice, did I?
Oh, do you want me to move that over there by you? Should we change seats?
It's a heck of a deal. The person who's directing Run the Gavel is supposed to be the guy running the gravel, but he directs who does it instead. I like that. So this is simple. This is just the update of where this is and what's going on with it. So the update to the court was Wednesday regarding the Brady stuff, etc. So part of the Brady question is, what are you doing? What does the policy manual changes have to be to do that? So it was interesting to go to the county attorney's meeting in Billings, because one of the persons who spoke was Jason, Josh, who's the county attorney for Cascade County, which is Great Falls, who went through a similar thing. And then also, we got the stuff from the Fed, so the U.S. attorney was there as well, Jesse Lazlovich. So one thing that I just gave you is the U.S. Department of Justice's guidelines Brady regarding employees and hiring, and what the process looks like. So it's real interesting. There's a federal form as well for Brady. What I did not like about the federal stuff was interesting, because when they did Giglio, which is the other counterpart to Brady, it talks about not just officers, it talks about the question of, quote, employees. So then I pushed the window on the people who were there and said, look, it seems to me, if you're going to talk about employees, the only employees that really it affects would be employees in the sheriff's department, and people who handle money, and people who handle CJI, confidential criminal justice information. So they agreed it isn't, quote, all employees. It's not that. It's just persons who have something which is there, which is bonded persons, which bonded persons handle money for counties, or clerks for districts, like sewer districts have bonded clerks, etc., or the rest. So then we got their list of whatever, so we're waiting to get the U.S. questionnaire for what their Brady questions are for their employment of people, etc. So we updated the stuff as well from the state stuff. So Deb and I are just a little bit of time proofreading through what those look like, but we told the Judge Wednesday, and he was more than surprised and more than supportive of the fact that we're not only just updating a little bit, it's an effort to upgrade the whole policy manual for what it says and where it goes, which is good. So the other part is it's real plain in the state statute, and Mako has not thought this through very well for a long time. This is in the old days of Safestead and myself and the other persons who pushed the window years ago, which was, look, who sets the standards for policy manuals, employment, employees, and compliance is the commissioners for the whole county, and all, quote, county officers. And the county's officers by state law are defined as like the sheriff's department, the county treasurer, the superintendent of schools, goes to the list of all the persons, have to comply with those. And our manual was not really good about making that known, and state law requires it. So I gave you a copy of the state statute that says what the change is, and how in terms of employees, discipline, up, down, hiring, policy, standards, that goes with it. So we're just bringing that part of the book up to date too, and part of the Brady questions comes from the federal form and the state form as well regarding that question. The other good thing is the federal handout I gave you has a good discussion of what Brady Giglio is, what it requires, and the other thing Deb did is she wrote the checklist down that we got from the court regarding what they perceive based on the Gallatin County case, because Gallatin County went through this whole drill as well in a lawsuit of what that list requires. So we're just updating the list, but you don't do it in 5 minutes because it's a whole bunch of work to bring it ahead, like 25 years. And granted, Brady Giglio is interesting. The first case was 1963, the second case was 1972. And a whole lot of people didn't do anything with it for a long time, but that's what the standard is. So for what it's worth, that's sort of where we are in the process. But the judge was more than appreciative on Wednesday that it's not just a function of is somebody giving lip service to the question of who does what. No, it's actually more than lip service. It's what the manual is supposed to say, what should have been done years ago that we have not done.
So I have a huge question for you, Wally,
Sure.
and I think that we have elected officials here probably wondering this. I don't know. I can't second guess. I'm not clear on what the changes would be for
hiring and firing and the commissioner's responsibility as it relates to elected officials and the departments. I understand the Brady Giglio stuff.
It's
but-
not all of it. Every elected official, in terms of employment and employees, has to comply with the policy manual of the county. That's for hiring, that's for firing, that's for discipline, that's for writing people up, that's for all of it. And who defends in the end is MACO, of course, in theory. But who responds to MACO in terms of being compliant with what it requires is the commissioners. So because of that, what the manual doesn't say now is anything about the question of hiring, what do you go through? Now, what you go through in hiring is what MACO and the commissioners have for the standards, the requirement, the list, and the rest, and who the check and balance on that is to make sure we painted by the numbers is the commissioners, and we don't have that now.
So,
But we need it.
okay, so in our policy, it is very clear how we hire. But I think that I hear you say, we need to add something in there that the commissioners are,
In the equation, they have to be to make sure the policy was gone through, you have a checklist. Like for Brady, which is separate, there's a checklist of what you did on Brady. Did you do a background check? Did you do whatever else?
yes.
And the Brady checklist probably applies to people who handle money, which are bonded.
But how would this affect any other elected official?
They just have to comply with what the process, the policy of the policy manual is, the process, that's all it is. Every county does it, basically.
So we do that already, but I'm not clear on
We
where the
don't have a check-
commissioners
We
fit
have
in
no
there.
checklist to make sure that anybody in any department, anywhere in the building, complied with the process of hiring somebody or disciplining them. We don't have a checklist, we don't have any handle now to make sure that people did what was supposed to be done in terms of a hire or a fire, et cetera. We have none.
But I would challenge that because it does say in there how we hire, how we recruit, how we hire.
There's a guideline for it, yeah, but there's no discussion of the rest of the equation. So read, what I'd say is take a look at the Department of Justice's guidelines for what they said it was. Take a look at that, and then take a look at the thing when we finish it with, it'll be probably the end of next week before we get a draft of it done. But the reality of the equation is, the state law says all county officers comply with what the standards are that are set by the commissioners. And there's 5 things in the requirement. And the 5th is to comply with all the conditions, terms, and policy manuals, et cetera. So probably the biggest thing to change is to make sure that people participate in that process and that that's reported to or provided to commissioners who also get to participate in the process. It was a big change to interview people for the sheriff's department and have the commissioners do the interview. But they're supposed to do that, because who defends in the end is the commissioners. That's where it sets. Who sets the guiding policy for a county is not a department head, not an elected official, it's the county commissioners. And who defends the lawsuits, who defends the claim against the county, who pays the claim, is not a department head, it's the taxpayer. And who responds to the taxpayers directly is the commissioner.
So the only change will be an actual checklist?
There's a checklist to do it, and then the other change up falls to commissioners, how much you wanted to say or not say, and we haven't finished it because I just got these pieces of the puzzle Thursday, Friday morning last week, and then you went to the MACO meeting Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I think, and they probably had some updates for you, I hope, on Wednesday on HR requirements. With luck. And if they didn't, that was their choice not to, but also, they had not subscribed to the theory, and so we pushed them a month ago about the question of, what do you mean? Elected officials don't respond to commissioner standards or the county standards. No, they have to, state law says it. So who gave MACO the statute was me, because this is an old discussion between Jack Holstrom, Mike Sakestead, and a whole bunch of other people statewide, starting in 2002, and what started it was terminating a commissioner over a felony.
So.
That's where it started.
So, for me, it seems that this is just kind of an update. We don't really know anything yet until we see what you present to us.
Finished, yeah.
Okay. And
Part of the question has been also, everybody says, did you do Brady? Brady isn't a do. It's not like, did you drink tea for breakfast? No, it's a standard regarding the credibility of and the question of reliability of the persons that are involved in the process, which is why it probably applies, first of all, to officers detention, dispatchers, elected officials, and persons who handle money. That's probably the first list of who it goes to for that reason. But it's not like it's, do you have a headache today? No, it's more of a standard, or what do you do? And that's part of what goes in the equation.
I think that until I see what you're saying,
Yeah.
I can't grasp it.
You're probably right, and what you need to do is to see what this is. That's part of the reason why you keep getting pieces of the puzzle to read. This is 28 pages, and I apologize, it's long, but I think you need to get a broad understanding of what it pushed us to the fore on. And it did. I mean, the whole Brady question pushes to the fore the issue of how does the county manage, how does the county not manage, who's in the equation?
So
I
it was
gave you a
more
copy of the state
far-reaching than,
statute.
the Brady was more far-reaching than just the sheriff's office.
It made us
Then
look at the
led
rest
to
of it.
you,
Right.
okay, all right.
Well, that's what I'd say, and the other statute I gave you, I didn't bring it with me, I don't think. I wrote the stuff with the other statute. The baby lady says I'm not pregnant, by the way.
We're all happy about that.
They still can't figure out what the devil's in my lungs, even with the sonogram. That was the hard part. So the state statute reads this way. Where is it? Just a second. Okay, county officers are the county attorney, the clerk of court, the county clerk, the sheriff, the treasurer, the auditor, the county superintendent, a surveyor, the assessor, the coroner, the public admin, and at least one justice of the peace. And then if the commissioners elect to appoint constables, that's also a county officer. But that's who the county officers are. And that includes the list of all the persons who are elected, etc. that goes through the list. What the state statute then reads, the Board of County Commissioners has jurisdiction and power and the limitations and restrictions that are prescribed by law to supervise the official conduct of all county officers and officers of all districts and other subdivisions of the county charged with assessing, collecting, safekeeping, managing, or dispersing public revenue. So it's a broad statement, but if anybody who does those things is subject to all of that. 2, see that the officers faithfully perform their duties. 3, direct prosecutions for delinquencies. 4, when necessary, require the officers to renew their official bonds, make reports, and present their books and accounts, for inspection. And 5, require the officers to supervise all staff in a manner that complies with the personnel policies and procedures adopted by the county governing body, which is the commissioners. That's what the statute requires. So to see that officers faithfully perform their duties, that came from a dispute with a sheriff who worked 1 day a week out of 5 and said, go to hell, I don't have to work 40 hours a week. And the commissioner said, yes, you do. The job is you're on call, and it's not a 40-hour a week job, it's probably 70 hours a week, because 7 days a week the sheriff needs to show up.
And
That's an
Wally,
old discussion, but that's the statute that makes it that broad.
what statute is that?
That is MCA 7-4-2110.
Okay,
And I gave you a copy of it.
okay, oh, okay, thank you.
Day-to-day business falls to county officials, so how you record something is done by statute. There's a state book and page. How you have an audit sheet, the auditor says, this is how you do the books, this is what it is. That has nothing to do with the rest of it. It's the other broader things that matter. And how we advertise. Those are simple things too. The other thing that's out of the equation, which is never a shock, is that the courts, in terms of things of their own, there's always an old argument about who works for the state, who works for the county, who works for the city, with the courts, but they advertise their own way, they do their own thing. And if you need a copy, I have one if you need it, another one.
Okay,
But what brought to the fore the question of what the book says was the question of what have we done to comply with Brady Gigwheel? And the reason it became an issue with bonds is we had a school clerk at the Wisdom School pocket like $265,000. We had a DPPHS person working for County Department of Health and Human Services pocket like $370,000. So the question was, what had you done in terms of hiring, background check in the West to warrant that they had a bond and warrant that the bond company had to pay?
Yes.
And when the bond company doesn't pay, a school district back the $165,000 because nobody's done the work, that is a huge ouch to every taxpayer in that school district. That's why.
So to summarize though, we don't have the verbiage yet, and so we need to wait to see that, to see the effect that it might have on elected officials.
Yeah, I don't think it has a big effect. It just says comply with the rules.
I know, but we're going to want to discuss those rules. So when we have that stuff in writing, we'll revisit
Sure.
this. Okay. And what do you think for a date of having that written so we can have a meeting on it?
Probably the earliest, which everybody's gonna get through it, might be the end of next week, so you probably won't get to have a public meeting to get feedback from whoever till after Christmas, I would guess, because this is like the, what, 10th today? What is this, the 9th today?
So, you don't think?
So we might have it to you 20th, 21st, somewhere in there.
So we have swearing in on the 30th.
Oh, it'll be before then, probably, when we get you a draft. The other thing we'll do is, I will also send it to HR at Mako and run it by Mako's people, because they're the ones who write the check
Right.
in the end to defend it if there's a question of defending it. But see, if it doesn't comply with their standards, then they don't defend.
Yes, and we do, that's great because that's a policy we always do. We always put it to them before we put it in the policy manual.
Well, it's like
That's great.
if you have a homeowner's insurance policy on your house, before you change the steps to build on, talk to them and say, will they cover this if you do it XYZ way?
Okay, so
So
to
that's
wrap
what we
this
do.
meeting up, I'm gonna put you in tentatively for the morning of Friday, December 23rd. Does that work? Or do you
That
wanna go
works
the
fine.
3rd, or do you wanna go the 30th?
Either one works for me. 23rd somebody's cooking, I think.
You are cooking. So, how is 10 o'clock on Friday, the 30th?
That should work fine. But in the meantime, read the stuff from USDOJ. Read as well, I think we'll give you a copy of the McCarthy case, which is a Gallatin County case regarding standards for employees and hiring under Brady Giglio. And the questions they ask, it's not so much complying with Brady Giglio, it's what questions do you ask? What do you run for a background check? Do you do just an NCIC? Do you just a standard search? What do you do? And the people that applies to most are persons who have confidential criminal justice information and persons who handle money.
Yes,
Those are the only two.
but I guess, but we still need to know if the policy changes are going to affect all elected officials.
It probably affects everybody in the county in the sense that it says, this is what you need to go through for checks, whatever else, with
Yep.
people losing funds, et cetera, yeah.
Okay.
And it should.
Yes, okay, I just wanted to
I
make,
think the only people who handle money probably would be treasurer's office, maybe clerk and recorder minimally, but not a lot. I don't know if clerk and recorder is, there is. You are here. Are you guys bonded still or not?
We have a blanket bond.
and I've explained that, yeah,
We're not
even
individually
the,
bonded, we're
But you have a
blanket
blanket for the office, but you don't have a bond for
for the whole
individual
county.
people.
For all
Okay, the
the,
county runs under a blanket bond that way, okay.
yes,
All right, that's okay. And then clerk of district court doesn't do much money that way, and that all goes to court, so that's different, so.
I know, but
probably-
I just wanna know, bottom line, will the changes that you're writing affect all offices?
Probably they do.
Okay, so it's not just money related, the changes you're gonna make will affect all
But the two
offices.
people it affects the most are
Yes,
people
the
who
most,
handle
but-
money
right.
and criminal justice information.
Yes, I do get
all
that,
handle money.
Yeah.
Every office handles money.
It becomes a question of how much though, too. That's what it turns into. What do you use?
that's why I wanna clarify though, we're not talking just about the offices that handle money, you're saying that every office is going to see the change.
Oh, yeah,
Okay, that's what I wanna
it
clarify.
should, yeah.
Okay,
All right. Next item on the agenda is to subscribe to MLDD, Criminal Information Disclosing and Investigation Sharing.
This was a good discussion with the judge Wednesday too. So why this county never did this is amazing, because in my discussion on Wednesday with Lance Jasper before the hearing, what people don't want to talk about is we are the coroner, so to speak, of how do you move drugs into Montana? Let's put it that way. So what it boils down to is 90 is the corridor, because we have 90 is the way that you get to the cutoff road, headed to wherever you're headed with things. And the other part is we also have the scale house for all the permits and all the trucks. So we have a small population, not a huge county, but we have a whole lot of places that manufacture prosecutions, let's put it that way. So the state has a program that was created regionally. It's called RIMIN, R-M-I-N, okay, which is basically the RIMIN program. I gave you a copy of that folder. Consists of people sharing information from Arizona, Colorado, Idaho, Montana, Nevada, New Mexico, Utah, and Wyoming. And there's a state coordinator for each state. So what RIMIN does is it coordinates certain special skills, which is sharing information, officer safety, what specialized equipment they have, training of persons in various things, analytical services for how do you do audio visual, how do you do digital forensics, like is clean the computer out, how do you find out what's in the record of it, intelligence research and investigative resources if you need something special. So that system, pardon me, was set up years ago. And also part of that is the Regional Information Sharing System, which is the RISC program, which is 6 regional centers nationally, which do this all over the country. So what's delightful is I gave you each flyer, but the service is $50 a year to subscribe because it's funded with federal money from the U.S. Department of Justice. And both the U.S. Attorney and the RIMIN coordinator, which is Dean Malum, we're both at the county attorney's meeting. And there's 1 county and 2 cities in Montana who do the program, and the state does it as well. But the counties have not, but partly I think that's because the most affected counties haven't plugged in yet, which would be Beaverhead because of the scale and the traffic on I-15, which would be the county up at Shelby, which has the same trouble of stuff on the border, Mineral, which is us with all the traffic from Washington, Idaho, et cetera, and that. And probably the counties over at Webo, who have the same thing with the highway there, and then Bighorn County, which is where 90's going south towards Wyoming. But they haven't really plugged in yet, and they should have. So the first sample of what this does is, I talked with Dean Malum. One thing they can do, because we got the word back from the state that they could not decipher the Barsati computer because it had a 6-digit code to get into it, but these people can. So one of the first things that probably will happen is the copies of the information on the Barsati computer will get done by this entity, which does it. It's all confidential criminal justice, and they'll make the copies and do that. Because they have the ability to do it, the state of Montana does not. So it's kind of interesting, but the better part too is if there's something else we need help on, whether it's officer training or evidence control, or if Gordon needs help, how do you organize evidence better, whatever, the service is provided in this entity is free, except for the $50 a year you pay. And I think the federal government required that to say that people are really for real who are doing this. So when I got the stuff on it and got the form, I thought I had better get this on your agenda and say, this is well worth the $50. This will help Deb a lot. This will potentially help the sheriff's office a bunch, and it's worth doing.
All right.
Hope that helps. But to me, it was a step that I should have taken years ago, but I'm not so sure that anybody even really understood it was there.
So the commissioners are paying the $50, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what I was saying, is to me it should come, it's the county's decision to do it or not do it, but I think it's a commissioner decision, but I don't know how you can go wrong, because
Yeah. Like,
the value of what we get is phenomenal. And here's one other note, Dean Malum, who's the state director, his cousin is Dale Malum, who used to run the racehorses and all the hardware stores all over the place, who lives at the old O'Keefe place, which is right at the Y. So I talked to Dean about his cousin in Town Mellon, that's Vale's son, has the campground there. But these guys are tied into western Montana and they know what Mineral County is. So we don't have a vacuum of a bureaucrat from Washington DC who doesn't get it. We have people who understand local, who know what Mineral County is, what the freeway does, and what the cutoff road is. So the fact that relatives and people are from here, I think makes us kind of more of a priority, which is why when I called them back about it Monday, I had a phone call back in about 2 seconds. And so I think that they really understand the issues we face better than a lot of people would who are just a Washington DC bureaucrat.
So we have a request for a membership of $50 per year. Do we have a motion to approve that?
I move to approve subscribing to MLDD, Criminal Information Disclosing and Investigation Sharing, at a cost of $50 annually to be paid by the commissioners.
All right, we have a motion, and I will make a second to that. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. There we go. All right. Around here for a bit.
I do too.
Thank you, Wally.
That's enough, sorry it's a different list of stuff, but thank you.
So, well, I have a question. I heard that they now have a communications committee. Is that like a subcommittee off the LEPC for this whole tow and dispatch and communication issue?
I do not know.
Oh,
You
I
may
did
want
not-
to ask, you may want to ask Dawn, who might know what the county's committees are,
okay. Yeah, she,
or ask Norm, who does the maintenance stuff, because Norm did some of the work to put the new antenna up for relay of information or message or responses. So Norm might know who's guiding the bus on that. And
okay.
he's here in the building somewhere. I saw him about half an hour ago, but he's here. So you might ask Norm about it, because he might know better who the committee is or who did the work on that, which would be who you talk to, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did on your end the whole state rotation law or anything become clear? Have we figured out if there's a tow rotation for Mineral County or not?
There isn't a rotation, there's a guideline of who's out there, of who can do it. But I took the note to task your question of the report you said the other day, and that people need to know that's a problem, that people are gouging, so to speak, because it sounded like that's what you said that was.
Well, the one particular tow truck is gouging. The other tow company I gave you the name of has not been put on the rotation at all.
Well, they're all on it. Everyone in the county is on the list of persons who can tow.
I haven't seen that list since you showed me the one that was so far out of date and had dead people on it. That was the last list you showed me.
Okay,
so-
that's the last list there was, but see, the company that quit, they were told that one company had retired, and the other company is added to the list, and I don't know if that's made it down to sheriff's office, yes or no.
One company, the owner is dead,
That's the one you told me about.
and the property sold
Okay,
last year.
okay. But it was still on the list because nobody had updated it.
There was several on the list that are no longer in business.
Okay.
It's a good team building exercise when we have folks show up. When spring goes, it's fun, but I like the idea that, like, maybe even set aside a whole week, quick's been really actively pushing. FLP, spouses and everything. But I think it's gonna be
So-
probably January.
I'll try to think of a president in 2 weeks of the Commissioners of Grain. The last Forest Service I did it with was the Kootenai. But the Lolos is gonna redo basically their forest land.
Yeah, that's.
So you get the gem on your shoulder if saying you got the county, which is a cooperator. I think then we'll all like to do it, and if they do, that's fabulous.
Okay.
Gives you free help inside the planning meetings, gives the county's chance to say we did play. There it goes. And it's a federal policy to say the federal government prefers to have cooperators and you can get them.
It's actually one of the things they came to chat about today is how best to interact with the process, and this sounds like a great talk.
Well, the best way to do it is Willie took the job is for the year with the grant to be the resource coordinator for the county stuff. So it's perfect to have Willie do it. And I was really, really plain with him when I said, look, whoever goes and sits on the IB team, it is not a public discussion. It's exempt from FOIA. Nobody can find out what's been said in that room, and Willie, you can't talk.
All right, it's 10 o'clock, and
Maybe I'll stay.
we have the Forest Service here today for discussion.
Thanks, Chris.
Update,
Love your wolf.
Abby Lane, is that right?
Yes.
Yes,
And Chris Gogger.
and Chris Gogger. I always forget Chris's name. I don't see enough of him.
Hey, I understand. I'm trying to get out at least once a month, and I've been real successful this year.
Do you want to start from the top with Forest Plain revision?
Sure. So I was just, you said Willie, right?
It's Wally.
Wally?
Willie's the person I think. Go ahead.
Okay, I was just talking to Wally, and I know we've mentioned it a couple of times coming out, that the Lower National Forest is getting ready to revise its forest plan. About a month ago, it was deemed that it was an official go. We got authorization from the chief, and I just kind of wanted to add some talking points on what exactly that means. According to the chief, it's about a 2-year time frame to fully redo the forest plan. Looking at the last half a dozen or so plans that have been redone, it's closer to a 4-year program, but the chief dictated it's 2, so officially that's what we're saying.
Until it's 4.
Well, so really, what we're doing is, over the last 2 months, the month of November and the month of December, we've been going out and basically letting people know, which is what we did last month when we were here, and even before then. Now that it's official, we're actually starting to lay out a little bit of a timetable. Really what it comes down to is January and February, we're doing a lot of outreach. We're gonna have some webinars, we're gonna have some coffee chats with rangers, and we're gonna have some public meetings. The purpose of those public meetings is really gonna be geared towards how does the public, our neighbors, our partners, our federal, state, and local government partners want to interact with us during the program. You know, it's definitely a marathon, it's definitely not a sprint, so to have those initial conversations on how you want to interact with us and how you want us to interact with you, that's going to be the key topic, topics of conversation. We do anticipate that there will be some folks that are going to come out and they want to address specific issues right out of the gate. We're just trying to lay the groundwork that, hey, it's not that it's not the right venue, it's not the right timing, because it's absolutely going to be part of the discussion in the future, but over the next 2 months, it's just, hey, how do you want to talk to us about those gates or those projects or those roads? So a couple of tools that we have are, we do have a web hub, and I've got a URL is the word I'm looking for, or a link for the internet to click onto, and it allows people to go and glean the latest and greatest information, and it also allows them to sign up for we call it Gov Delivery, and it's basically every time there's any changes or anything scheduled, they will get an email. I've signed up for it for my personal account, and it's already proved helpful to see what the public's getting versus what we talk about, you know, in our forest leadership team meetings, for example. And then there's also an email address there so that they can go straight to the source if they have ideas, questions, or concerns about forest plan revision, rather than going through their local representative or district ranger. They can go straight to the source.
That ought to be helpful, I would think.
I think so too. I know some folks have already been using it. Willie, for example, we have been receiving emails, so it is open and it is being monitored. I don't know if I would go so far as to say daily, but I will definitely say frequently, because we've.
And what did you say they called that?
So the 2 things. One is the web hub, and it's kind of a SharePoint site where folks can go and it's frequently updated by the Forest Plan Revision team. And then the other one is an email address, which we can share both of those with you. I'd rather not say it off, I'd rather provide the hyperlink that actually is functional to you.
The best way to get to it is just a quick Google search of the Lolo National Forest. Scroll down and there's a big area where it says Forest Plan Revision, so
Okay.
right on our main page.
Okay.
And then there's like a question and comment.
You made
box,
it
and
easy
there's
for me.
email. Yeah.
And if it's not easy, tell us how to make it easier.
All right. All right.
Okay, pretty much already covered that. So we have developed a draft public engagement and participation strategy, which I've kind of covered, but we're seeking feedback from the public to help shape it. Public input can be provided via email, and more extensive public engagement will begin January. So I kind of covered that already. We will also be forming an interagency governmental working group that will meet quarterly beginning in January. And that's where I mentioned the federal, the state, the local, and the tribal government. And we do believe we have everyone that we need to communicate with on that mailing list. So you should be receiving communications with that. I know for a fact that Mineral County is on there. Thank you, Abby. But we are absolutely willing to expand that list. And then I already mentioned we are encouraging everyone to sign up for that Gov delivery. From a private citizen perspective, it's the best way to stay informed. And currently we have 3 meetings scheduled. The first one is on January 10th. It's a webinar, and we are aware that maybe not everybody has the ability to log on via the internet, whether they have poor internet service, 9 Mile, or if they live rurally. So we are also planning on in-person meetings. We have one scheduled already for February 21st. And then somewhere in between, we haven't nailed down the date yet because there's probably going to be multiples. We'll have a coffee with the ranger style meeting, and those will be advertised through that FedGov delivery and on that website, so that you know when to go to Superior or when to go to 9 Mile to meet in person. Okay. Any questions on Forest Plan Revision?
My thought would be this, and we talked for a second. The truth of the matter is, as of 2000, the federal government has a policy that says if local governments decide to coordinate, cooperate, or collaborate, it's a preferred status for them to do that. And what happens is this, coordination doesn't get you there, collaboration does not get you there, but cooperation does, in the sense if you do that, suddenly you end up with a representative of the county on the ID team as part of the scoping process. So what the scoping process is, it's exempt under federal law, Section 4D of the Freedom of Information Act from public disclosure. Because it's the only way we can have a frank, honest conversation amongst employees and cooperators with the agency about what the issues really are. And I appreciate the fact that that gives the guys who are the professionals about grizzly bears or trees or logs or fish or whatever else to say what the hell's really on their mind. And they do it. But the nice part is, if the county elects that status, which Beaverhead Madison did, Lincoln did it with the Kootenai plan. And I wrote the memo for it, and I helped those guys get through it and do it, and it works fabulously for the Forest Service, and it worked fabulously for the local government entities to do it. So frankly, if the county has the opportunity to sit down, because I talked to Willie about this when we were interviewing for the position he took for the year. This was something he was game to do, but there's some weird rules. A commissioner cannot do it because you have a requirement of disclosure of all information under state law and the state constitution. So that flies in the face of the federal law about the scoping process is not public. But the county's under a constitutional state requirement, it is public. So the commissioners don't do it. They have to pick a resource use person who does, which is what Willie's hired partly for. So that works. So that's kind of a weird, strange way to do it. But the other part is that Willie gets a lot of his guidance from the county's resource use component of the county growth policy, which is the plan. But what puts you in the position of, for the first time, the county is not just the plan taker. The county gets to help be the plan maker. That's what the scoping team does. That's what the IDT does. It sets out the issues. What do we do? What do we have to talk about? So instead of getting those and getting the comment, which is what the Forest Service is trying so hard to do, what the IDT does is it frames a lot of those. So by electing to cooperate, what suddenly for the first time we're doing is what Lincoln figured out and what Beaverhead Madison figured out in 2000 is for the first time, we're not taking the plan, we're helping make the plan too, which helped a ton. And that really did a whole lot for the agency regarding that, but here's your funnier story. So what we did with the most invaluable input in the whole thing is Beaverhead County set up 4 meetings, 4 weeks in a row on a Thursday evening from like 5 o'clock till 9 o'clock. We picked a different place in the county and showed up with maps of everything in that area that were like the size of your wall map there that you have, with ballpoint pens and with markers, and said to all the people who came, the issue of trails, of hunting, of logging, all sorts of things are an issue, cattle grazing, whatever. So, mark on this map where you salted your cows 50 years ago. Tell us where you went hunting for the last 30 years. Draw the line on the road, draw what it is, and we made a key. So what we did for the first time, we had guys 80 years old showing where they salted cows in 1945. But all of a sudden, what the Forest Service loved is for the first time in history, the Forest Service had a historic database, a set of historic facts of why. When did we log this? We logged this in 1948. Well, the Forest Service records don't show that. Well, no, we did it then. We pulled log with the Cat MT, which is a little 2-cylinder engine from a John Deere B and a bulldozer. But there was this history component. So I think it does 2 things. It gives the Forest Service a whole lot of other reasons historically to say yes instead of no. It also gives the Forest Service a historic basis to defend. And for what it's worth, when the Antelope Basin lawsuit went down in the Centennial Valley, where a group, Earth Justice, et cetera, from Bozeman sued the Forest Service and the BLM to shut down all the grazing in Antelope Basin, Beaverhead and Madison County intervened in the suit as an amicus and filed a brief, and we got a judgment from Judge Malloy in Missoula upholding the Forest Service and the BLM for the work they'd done, in large part because of what we put together for them. Show me a judgment where a county got a win from Judge Malloy. We did. No problem.
Can't think any right off.
Yeah, but see, what we did as a county is we
I don't even get a Christmas card from it.
Yeah, but what it was a nice way for the county to participate with what exactly you're trying to do is meaningful information.
And that is the exact purpose of these outreaches, is to let folks know, hey, not only do we want to come to the table, we want to come to the table where everyone feels like they have a say, and that is valuable. There's no doubt about it, to have those kind of conversations.
And that's what did it. And so if I can find the files, I have all the memos. Mark Lodine's retired, but I think Jody Miller at the OGC, Office of the General Counsel, your legal help in Missoula. Jody's probably got the forms, but if she doesn't, I can find them. But it's a simple thing to do, and the nicer part is because we've got the office here, whoever we have take the hat on of the cooperator person, then you've got ready access to accomplish that, and then it's a great way to do it. And the thing that matters the most is what we use for our template-based maps. And we had a bunch of them from the old Forest Service office in Butte, and we had a whole bunch of them at the NRCS office, which is now, it was SCS in those days, historically, became Natural Resource Conservation Service in the 90s. But the SCS had these fabulous maps. So we used those with the roads, and then there were roads that were there that aren't there now, and people penciled those in. The other thing we did is we made every person who drew on the map draw it in a different pen color, and date and sign their name. So I have a set of maps that are now 25 years old, 20 years old, signed and dated by persons saying they're true, and they're now dead. But the map is not. And the Forest Service had it. Imagine what that is worth. So if you guys are game, that's a different way to play the game, but Willie was game to try it a different way when we interviewed him. And this is different than what you've heard before. But Kootenai, Lincoln County would tell you it works. Beaverhead, Deer Lodge Forest, Beaverhead, Madison County will tell you it works well. And it really was a good way to do it. So thank you. Sorry to take a minute, but this is kind of a new thing to you, but if you go on the internet and look up a document titled A Guide to Being a Cooperator with an Agency, or an Agency Guide to Cooperator Status, the first draft that was done, all the pictures of all the persons in it were BLM and Forest Service employees from Dillon, and all the county people from Beaverhead County and Madison. And then they updated that in like 2008 or 10 but it's still on the internet. It's called a guidance or a guide to being a cooperator agency status. Take a look at it. It's on the internet. That'll help.
Alright.
And that's not to add to your list of stuff to plug in, but I think when the agency figured out they could use this as a valuable tool, then all of a sudden the whole tenor changed. But this was originally a product of the pissed off people from the sagebrush rebellion in the 80s and 90s. The guys in Nye County, Nevada, Maricopa County, California, the guys in Arizona that were gonna, burn everything down or whatever else. It's like, no. And once they put it to positive energy, it really helped a bunch for everybody.
Sounds like a valuable tool, so thank you.
Yeah, I'll get it. So, yeah. Do you have a card with you, or?
I actually don't have cards yet.
That's okay, just give me your phone number.
Okay.
That's all I need is the phone number.
Best way is 406-626-5408.
Got it, thanks.
Thank you.
When I call,
That works. That's the desk number too. Cell phone number doesn't work very well there.
Good, but that's okay.
Emails.
Yeah, no, thank you, because this really was an eye opener for a lot of people. And agencies went to doing this.
Well, it's already been worked through the hiccups. I got troubleshot to be successful, which
Yes.
means we're not inventing a new wheel too, so.
Right. And actually, who invented the wheel was myself.
Thank you.
Probably the general counsel. But I was-
It's your turn, Abby.
Okay,
so,
well, you're walking out.
Wait, we didn't hear your shot.
Okay, so the next item is for your awareness. So part of the Montana water rights settlement, which was legislation in December 2020. So part of that, section 13, it's complicated, I'm not an expert, so I'm reading from my notes. Section 13 contained numerous miscellaneous provisions, most of them truly miscellaneous, except for section 13J, exchange of lands. Under this provision, the Secretaries of Ag and Interior must negotiate with the state to exchange public land within the state of Montana for state trust lands located within the reservation. So what does this mean to the Forest Service, specifically Monroe County and Superior Ranger District? It also affects Plains Thompson Falls. So through the process, in a series of meetings, the state identified criteria it had for acquisition of federal lands. Primarily, they must be able to replace their timber base on lands to be conveyed to the United States. So what this means for us is the Superior Ranger District is working on dwindling down lands that the state has identified for exchange, all based on the Montana water rights settlement. So we're already a little bit behind the curve because it's almost 2023, and we need to get this settled sooner rather than later. So we're working through the process of identifying lands that the state has also seen as a priority for them to acquire. So we've already excluded wilderness, botanical areas, wild and scenic rivers, research natural areas. And by January 11th, we have to get back together with the state with our list of high to low priorities and then no parcels. So places, like Savinac, we're gonna keep that. It's too special.
Is the Clark Park wild and scenic or not?
I don't think so.
No, it's not.
And for us here, it's a pretty small acreage amount, and it, for what they've identified on the Superior Ranger District, also butts up to the land that the state saw as a high priority with Plains Thompson Falls. So we're just identifying, what resource concerns could there be? Like, is there an active timber sale? Is there a gravel pit? Because as a Forest Service, we have an interest of keeping some of these things, like a gravel pit, If for, maybe a trail passes through there, that will remain easement access and right of way and all those types of things.
Did the state give you a list of what they're looking at already?
Yes,
They gave you a land list.
a map, yes. We have a map with what they've identified, what they would like, and so the next process is working with our resource specialists to, like, high, medium, and low priorities.
Can we snag a copy of the map to see what it looks like? The biggest loss for the county is Piltdown.
Right, yes, and it's a really low acreage that they're even looking at. And I cannot, it's just we're just negotiating, so they've identified a huge swath of land, but it's gonna be dwindled down to like 50% of the area that they would even deem appropriate for their use. So I can't give the map out at this time until it's more finalized.
So in the process of considering effect, would you include in the effect the loss of the PILT funding, which affects schools especially?
I can bring that up. So the other part of the process is the regional office will be taking on the entire NEPA workload for this, with input from our resource specialists. But it's happening on the Lolo, the Flathead, and the Kootenai, and some parts of the Custer Gallatin.
Is there variability in the PILT funding that
Yes.
comes, depending on where the acreage is located?
Yes, and the value of the acreage affects it too, whether it's funded or not funded affects it, but for what it's worth, the comments on this particular part of the settlement started in 2017, and I wrote them. And I have the stack of letters. Wrote them for 3 counties. They did it, and the feds knew what the issue really was in terms of those funds and those dollars and that money, and the state knows too, and the state said they weren't working on this at this point in time. So it's interesting you have a map, because the state's of Lake County, they weren't doing it at this point. So the
I mean,
stories are
I was
different
just
depending who I talk
I was
to.
just informed of this last Friday, so it was very recent.
Oh, yeah, but see, I have the letters back to 2017, and if you want a copy of the language of 30199, which is the bill, a copy of that whole section that this affects in that settlement act, I have a copy upstairs on the desk. And the commissioners have seen a copy of it, but we've been talking about this for 6 months, that the PELT thing is an issue because of the value question. The biggest target the state originally had was frontage on the river, because access to water is worth more money, and flooded lake is worth like $8,000 a foot, a front foot. So to get value for $8,000 a foot was hard to do, so the river was the concerted, that's the first big target. So that's worth more money per acre than what, which is not enough.
Right, so I will say, all the land on the Superior Ranger District is, timber suitable. That's what they've looked at, because it's it's for the School of Trust. So, timber and mineral development.
Is it on the river though?
No,
No.
no, because there were some parcels that they selected that were on the river, but we will likely not move forward with that.
But I have this stuff if you need it.
Okay. But I will make sure to put that on my list of items to bring up about how will this affect the hill, because I understand the importance for Monroe County.
Especially for schools,
Yep.
it's a big deal. And county roads. Thank you guys much.
Last topic? This affects both of us.
Yeah.
We only got 5 minutes left. I'm not sure if
We
you,
could probably go over a little bit.
I'm not sure if you've seen these
Thank you.
maps yet or not.
So I'm under the impression that Rocky Mountain Oak Foundation has already approached Mineral County with this map, actually. And there's some sections right outside of the township of Superior, but then there's some more sections down on my district that Rocky Mountain is looking to procure for long-term transfer to the Forest Service. Is any of this familiar to you?
So this is the Weyerhaeuser.
MLK,
yeah.
yep. Oh,
So this
So-
was, there was that meeting at Superior Meats about a
Yes.
month ago?
yes,
And then I
we
went to the
that.
one in Plains.
Okay,
And in both of those, well, Plains, there was a lady from Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, but she didn't say much. But the first one and most of the second one even, we were kind of led to believe that Rocky Mountain Health Foundation wasn't too interested in it. And then I kind of heard through the grapevine that maybe they were, that they had contacted you guys or something on the 911.
So not just the 9 Mile, I mean, they've contacted the Forest Service, and really what we're trying to do is determine what the interest is across the board. The Forest Service is not taking a stance currently on whether or not we can or will or are interested. Financially, it would definitely be a challenge with some of the other large procurements in the area, but it's probably not outside the realm of possibility. But we want to make sure that we're not, get involved in a discussion with a private entity that's going to positively or negatively impact our neighbors without having at least a discussion with them as to trying to gauge what the interest is from the county perspective. And I think as far as this map is concerned, 98% of it, or that's a made-up number, but the vast majority of it is in Mineral County. I think there's one small section in Missoula County. I haven't reached out to them yet because, of course, that's also in my district. But we're trying to gauge interest in opposition, see what kind of questions you might have that we can take to our realty specialist and see what our next steps are going to be.
Did I understand you that Rocky Mountain Foundation is interested in purchasing it and then eventually turning it over to the Forest Service? Is that what you said?
That's my understanding of it. Yes, and it's not just turning it over. It would be either a land swap or we'd be purchasing it from Rocky Mountain Health Foundation. But because they're in such large parcels, I think Rocky Mountain Health Foundation is actively considering trying to obtain all the land.
And they've also spoken with the DNRC and Fish Wildlife Parks to see if any of their stuff is interested, because the light blue on the map is DNRC state trust land, and as you can see, some of the parcels are really close to or adjacent, so.
And what they said about the DNRC there at both of those meetings that I was at was they have to have before DNRC can purchase something, they have to have it pretty verified that they can make a 2 to 3% return on their
Okay.
purchase. Well, I don't know if anybody's looked at those pieces of ground or not,
And
but
so this is just the start.
unless you were selling some dirt or some rock, I don't think that they're gonna get much other, it'd be tight, you're not gonna get a timber resource off of there that is worth 2 or 3%.
Agreed. I haven't looked. I don't think we've done any ground.
They did say at the Plains meeting, well, that there are some places over there that they could sell rock and maybe get some return. I don't know if that's true or not. But so what I was led to believe all along was that the Forest Service was not interested in it.
Oh, okay.
Because they had negotiated with MKH. So there's a great big piece in Sanders that's 13,000 or something. Maybe it's even whittled down smaller than that now. And they had been negotiating with MKH, buying all that and probably all of this, and maybe even some in Missoula. And by the time they negotiated 2 years is what we were told.
So
And
it's
at the
really
end of-
complicated for the Forest Service to acquire new land, and we have to apply for this funding, the land water conservation. And like right now, we'd be, if the county and the Forest Service, we had a mutual interest in acquiring this land, we would have to put in an application now for like 2025 or 2026 to get this funding. But that's just one piece in all of Region 1. Maybe there's a critical piece of grizzly bear habitat that has a higher importance of protecting for the future. And so they would get the funding. So what happened with the stuff in Sanders, that 13,000 acres, the Missoula Front Country project was chosen by the region to fund. And so they acquired all of that.
Well,
Or-
you're almost entirely right. They actually acquired the first third of potentially a 3-phase approach, which basically means that's taken the funding as a priority project for the next 3 years. So, I mean, even 2025, 2026 is probably optimistic for finding funding for this because the resources are kind of tapped because of the Missoula Front Country for at least the next 2 years, potentially the next 3. That's my understanding of it.
How does it benefit Mineral County to have the Forest Service end up with this land?
So we're working with our resource specialist to try to identify, like, maybe some of it falls, maybe there's a critical bull trout stream or something that's like worth protecting. I haven't had those questions, or I haven't got the answers to those questions yet, because really what we wanna find out is if the county is even interested.
I guess I would need to know what the benefit to the county would be before I could say whether or not I personally was interested.
About the only thing we can say with any confidence is that, yeah, the PILT funding would be the only fixed, the only one we can look at and come up with an approximate idea of what it would be worth to the county. But if that were to sell privately, that'd be another thing for you guys to consider.
Right.
I mean, you know, if it were federal land, you know, it could be open to, you know, hunting access, outfitter and guide permits.
And that's what their big fear was, that
Right,
if
'cause
it's
this
sold
land is-
privately.
Been
It
taken
would
out
be
of block
locked up,
management, right?
Yeah, and it has been taken, yeah.
Right.
So you got an outfitter up there outfitting on it right now that's hanging the no trespassing signs. And it's not going over real well with the hunters from this last hunting season. You know, to run into him up there hunting and they can't. But I had the treasurer look up so this is the 7,000 acres, I think is what is in Mineral County? Or are you guys just taking part of it?
That sounds about right.
Yeah, right now it's kind of an all or nothing proposition. It doesn't have to stay that way. You know, the proposition landed on our desk and we're just trying to gauge.
Yeah, so the 7,000 acres, right now, we get like $12,016 in property taxes off that. That's just a timber base property tax, so real estate base would be higher than that if there was places that sold. And yeah, I guess I would have to see what the PILT would, and there really hasn't been a lot of public comment, you know? There was a dozen people at Jerry Struce, maybe 20, huh?
Yeah, maybe.
And the Plains one was pretty loaded up. There was probably 50, 60 people there.
So I think the Plains one is a lot further along in the process. I don't know the history on it. Yeah, I don't know the history on the Plains District. I just know that it was a lively meeting. That's about all I've heard about it.
Yeah, there was.
But I don't know if if the proposal's already been submitted through LWCF for consideration. This isn't that far along yet. We're kind of seeing whether or not it's worth going down that path.
I would like to have our third commissioner in on the comment too. We had talked before, you know, and I said, we're 90% Forest Service right now, and maybe we're better off with 7,000 acres being private, but then you're gonna give up that, probably undoubtedly, you're gonna give up the public access if it's going to be private. So that would be the big plus. I can't say at this time that I'd be against or for.
Right, I agree with that, yep.
So if we had a due out or some additional information, it sounds like you would be interested in knowing what the PILT dollars would amount to for that section?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. I'll reach out to our realty specialist, see if they can come up with a round number. Just to give you an idea of what we're looking at. And then if you guys have the map, which is pretty much all we have currently, and I've already touched base with Roman just over the phone, but now he'll have a copy of the map, which was one thing he was interested in. Do you think you'll need further conversation with us other than the numbers that I just promised you before you can come to an opinion, or do you want to just wait until maybe next month we'll have the conversation again?
What do you think?
I like waiting and having the conversation again.
Yeah, probably have a conversation again.
Okay,
Yeah.
that works.
And once we find out what.
So, I don't know who the mathematician here is. Wally, maybe it's you. So then what percentage would that add to the 90% already owned by the Forest Service?
Well, I don't think it's quite 90, but it's like 87
Okay,
or
so-
something, yeah.
So do you have an idea of what percentage that is? This piece, what that would add to what you already have?
7,000 acres, I'm not sure how big Mineral County is.
Yeah.
And I'm not a math major,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
I wouldn't even care to caution
Yeah.
to guess.
I would probably less than 1%,
Okay.
right?
And how many acres are Mineral County? Do we know?
Off the top of my head.
I think the
Sorry.
Superior Ranger District is like 452,000, but that doesn't include the portion that I got filed.
Yeah, that's about half a 9 mile, and 9 mile encompasses about just under 500,000 acres too, so say another 150 to 200,000 acres there. So it's probably less than 1%, is what I'm hearing.
But things to consider too is, you know, would acquiring these lands open up more road access, you know?
Well, that's not up to us, so that's up to you guys.
Well, right,
I mean, we're not the one
but
that puts-
access to the public, you know?
Yeah, I see what you're saying, yeah. Not necessarily motorized access is what you're saying.
So if we have another conversation though, then you'll come back with the PILT information? I'm sorry, I kind of got lost there.
Yeah, actually, my hope would be to, depending on how long it takes to get the information, my hope would be I'll reach out to Roman, I'll let him know what the number is that I get back from the realty specialist, and then he can communicate with both of you, and then we'll come out again next month
Okay.
and be
That'd be
able to
good.
maybe take the next step.
I would think it'd be pretty simple to figure it out because Denley must have some kind of idea.
I think
Well, I
the
guess-
PILT is around like $2 to $2.50 an acre.
Yeah, I don't know if Mineral County did. I wanted to say $1.50, but I
Okay.
might be wrong. Maybe it's gone up a little. I think we have gotten some higher payments
Okay.
lately.
So between $10,000 and $20,000.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Okay.
Extremely rough number.
Yeah, yeah. Probably very similar to what we're getting right now.
If it's only a 1% increase, I can't imagine it would bring your revenue up much higher than, 1% on average. So, again, we're not a math major,
Yeah.
so I don't want to.
Me neither, that's why I had to put it out there to one of you.
Okay, and we are meeting with some staff next week to talk about the pros and cons with resource benefits about this, so we'll get some more information.
Would Willie be in, should he be hearing this also as a resource?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so we'll make sure the next meeting that
Yeah, he's-
we invite
you bet.
Willie.
Those were I think the three big things we had. I didn't have any other major updates for you, so I think we can leave it there, just to keep us on the timetable.
All right, well, thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having us.
Abby, how's it going for you?
It's going well,
Good.
from my perspective.
I will
That's the
try
only
and have that
perspective
rack
counts.
application in over there today.
Okay, great.
I had to send it to my wife at the bank to have her print it, my printer wouldn't give me a
Oh,
copy
okay.
of it.
We got a couple hard copies too, so. I think Willie said he wants to join too,
Oh, cool,
so.
good deal.
All right, we'll see you later.
All right, thank you.
Goodbye, have a
Good
great
talking to you.
weekend.
Talking to you.
And Wally?
Yeah.
I haven't
What
heard
was your
back from
last
Mary
name?
Rose yet, and if I get in her office.
Nice to
I'll
meet
see
you.
what
Nobody knows my class.
I can-
It has forest offices all over.
Oh, wait, but we have a,
Okay.
is Spirit calling us?
No, it just, they sent out you didn't send us a letter?
Yes, I did, but I
And
didn't
they
know
just
if he
want us
was
to buy
coming in.
onto this as soon as possible, I
The
think.
Quincy Forest Project.
Like to get all 56 counties.
Just like, calm down, you have
It's on the
a
agenda, so I thought, well, we might as well put it on the
The
agenda
public
and
kind
talk
of got
about
to
it.
change its mindset.
Did you read it?
I did not.
The agencies, both U.S. Fish and
We need to read it into it.
I don't think so.
Eric Bryson from the Montana Association of Counties, and the letter says, Gallatin and Valley counties are requesting your consideration of the attached letter. They would like to get all 56 counties to sign off. If you choose to support the letter, please make sure to place it on a public meeting agenda for approval. Are you gonna read it now?
I will.
Donna's going to read that letter.
Medicaid rates for nursing homes. As Montanans, we care of each other.
For, oh.
It says
well, yeah.
we care for each other. Across the rural-urban divide, across the generational divide, and across the brawl of the wild divide. Of all our constituents across Montana's communities, we would argue that the most deserving are our elderly neighbors who are on Medicaid benefits. These Montanans have served Montana well, and at this final stage in their lives, they are seeking the promise of compassionate, medically appropriate care. Most of them are out of money. They have used up their care options with family members and loved ones, and they simply cannot afford in-home care, which can cost more than $20,000 a month and is rarely covered by private insurance or Medicare. Our elder care economy is broken. Since January of 2022, more than 10% of skilled nursing rest homes in Montana have closed their doors. Most of the facilities that are still operating are teetering on the edge of closure. Many of the public facilities that are still open are operating in our counties, but it doesn't seem to matter whether the nursing home is private or public. They are all struggling. The cancer in Montana's elder care system is the low Medicaid reimbursement rates. Our community facilities that accept Medicaid lose more than $100 per day under the state's funding program. The Medicaid rate averages about $212 per day, while the actual cost is over $300 per day. No facility can remain financially viable under those circumstances, whether they are private or public. As a result, most facilities in Montana don't accept Medicaid customers, leaving few options for those who need services the most, those with nowhere else to go. We represent counties across the state. We represent rural, urban, conservative, liberal, and every other type of community you could imagine. Our shared messages for DPHHS, Governor Gianforte, and the 2023 legislature is this: please help save our skilled nursing facilities by investing in a rate increase for nursing homes. We need your leadership now more than ever. County facilities are operating economically and efficiently. They are making good choices and serving the community. We are not doing anything wrong. Our facilities have financial problems because Medicaid doesn't even come close to covering the reasonable costs of caring for our elderly. Medicaid rates for nursing homes are unconscionably low. The state isn't paying for the care they are asking the facilities to provide. County taxpayers are being asked to subsidize the state in order to keep our local nursing homes open. Legally, these Medicaid residents are the state's responsibility, but the state is shirking its responsibility to pay a reasonable rate. Most of our counties, along with critical access hospitals in rural communities, are supporting these facilities with property tax-funded mill levies. Rural, urban, conservative, and liberal voters alike have seen the value in funding critical care services for our elderly neighbors in need. For example, Gallatin County voters just passed a mill levy to keep their county rest home open, and the question was supported by the majority of voters in every single House district precinct, regardless of whether that district elected Republicans or Democrats to represent them in the legislature. We have skin in the game at the local level, so now we are asking the state to step up to do their part. The state has overspent their budget by millions of dollars for the state hospital and other state-run facilities because of skyrocketing costs of running those facilities. We are all struggling to keep up with the skyrocketing cost of nursing, for example. But so far, Governor Gianforte's administration has not recognized that every facility, including private, for-profit, and county-run facilities, are experiencing exactly the same kind of cost increases. The administration is paying close to $800 per day to fund care for Medicaid residents in the dementia ward of the state hospital. Yet, they are only paying community facilities an average of $212 per day for senior long-term care Medicaid residents. All we are asking for is less parity. If you raise rates for community facilities, the demand for beds at the state hospital will be less, and more elderly Montanans will receive quality care. We are all in this together, and no constituent group is more deserving of a safety net than our elderly Medicaid recipients. We are begging Governor Gianforte and members of the 2023 Montana Legislature to please fix the rate reimbursement rate for nursing homes. The house is on fire and we need your help. Signing this letter, Valley County Commission, Gallatin County Commission, Madison County Commission, Roosevelt County Commission, and Webo County Commission.
What do you think?
I'm all for this letter. I think it was very informative and it's very frightening. I think there is no population more deserving of care than the elderly.
Yeah. I
Who
think
is it addressed to?
it's addressed to Governor Giaforte in the legislature.
Does it have any backing from any of the local or the state legislators like Zinke and
No,
others?
this was put together by, it was sent out by Montana Association of Counties. So, no, they didn't approach them.
Be nice to have someone in the legislature who could, but I agree, 100%.
Yeah. This is, I mean, if you talk with the hospital, this has been a long time coming.
Yes.
They haven't paid enough for a number of years.
I'm all for signing the letter. Do we need to?
Do you make a motion to that?
I wonder, I will do that, yes.
All right, I would second that motion then.
Okay. So the motion is that we sign as Mineral County for the Medicaid rates for nursing homes letter.
Yes. I second that motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Okay, now do we
And
have a rest?
hopefully our elderly, thank you.
I know, I don't wanna mess these up.
Dawn, quick question.
Yes,
Who funds the crime victim advocates? Is that out of the county attorney or out of the state?
Through the
well,
county
it is,
attorney.
the county attorney manages the CVAs and that grant. But
Okay, so it is a
whether-
grant though.
It is a grant,
Okay,
yes.
I was just curious.
Yep, and the in-kind match is office space and I don't know if there's anything more than that. There might be maybe it's supplies, but
I had another question. Oh, I got a lot of questions today.
oh, did he open public comment? Did you
I did,
open it?
I
Oh,
did.
okay, I'm sorry, I wasn't there.
You were, you
I was
said,
running,
wait.
I was
Yeah,
running.
you said, wait just a minute, I turned the microwave off. That is exactly what you said.
Yeah,
So you were there.
I was busy running.
All right.
Okay,
I heard about this communication committee. Is that a county committee or is that a subcommittee from LEPC?
that has to do with LEPC. The communications is not a county thing.
Okay, and LEPC, do we have a commissioner that attends those?
Yes, I do,
You do.
I do.
I heard last meeting was pretty fiery.
You know what, Juliet, and last week I didn't get to attend because we had a sheriff's office emergency that I had to deal with, so I was not there. So I can't
I
come.
think I will be coming to record them because it does matter, especially out on the west end. The LEPC does affect us quite a bit as
Sure.
far as how we're able to run and what we can and
Sure.
can't do and things like that.
Were you able to connect with Lori Dove?
No, she's not called me back and I've left her 3 messages.
Okay,
I don't know what to say about that.
okay.
Dwayne,
Yes.
when are you due for re-election and are you running again?
Oh, I think I still got 4 years. There's 6 years.
Oh, there's 6-year terms. Okay,
So-
I was just curious. Dawn, you are running again in 2 years?
Well, my intention is to run again.
I could be dead by then, Julia.
Couldn't we all?
Yep.
Yeah, Juliet, I would really love to run again, and that was my intention from the beginning, and I'm hoping to keep that intention.
Just remember, everything you do between now and then is the campaign, not the actual 2 months before. I'm just saying.
But, so I kind of would like to speak to that. My mindset right now is simply helping the community and the community as a whole, and what I can do as a commissioner. I'm never thinking about campaigning.
No, what I meant by that is the actions you do in these 2 years is what will or won't affect your campaigning and reelection.
Sure.
So a lot of times when we look at candidates, it doesn't matter if it's county, federal, or state,
Sure.
we listen to the advertisements, and the answer is most of it should be based on what their actions were prior to wanting to run again, and that's all I'm saying is
Sure.
I think the community is looking harder at all of you and what you are doing, and I think it will affect the next elections for all of you. So I'm just saying that it's
Sure.
noted.
And I do understand that, and I would like to say, I do try, I see the agenda, like on Friday, Renee and I work on it, and I always want to research all of the topics so that I have an understanding and can contribute to anything that goes into those topics. I do feel committed, and I think that's part of that commitment, is you have to know what each of these topics is. So if that's campaigning, I'm all in.
Well, that leads into my next question, which is the same one I've asked every week, and I'm gonna ask it again.
Okay.
So, what is the research that you did do? What public meetings did you have, or were they just public comments about doing Zoom from the commissioner's room?
I will say they were public meetings. It
Okay.
was not public comment.
That's what I'm asking, if there
Yeah,
was,
if they
and
were
then can you
public
give me the
meetings.
dates, and so that I can look up the minutes,
And I was going to get you the minutes, but I thought I understood you to say, I want to know what's going on now with Zoom, not in the past. So then I didn't even bother to get those. But those are still open to you. I'm still happy to get those for you.
you said you did research, so.
Well, we did research with the open meeting laws, and we even had the local government who teaches open meeting laws. He came and talked to all of us, spent a couple hours with us, and a big topic of conversation was Zooming, and we had to confer with him legally, do we need to do this? What if we don't want to do this? What if we do want to do this? How do we involve the public? And that's how we had actual public meetings where it was discussed. Pros and cons were discussed. And it was decided simply that the commission did not want to hold Zoom meetings. I think you would find all of the commissioners love the YouTube. So
The problem with YouTube was last week at 1 o'clock, I had to leave because I had an appointment. But last week at 1 o'clock, Deb walks in here at 1 o'clock for items to discuss with you guys. And you said, I don't know if there were items to discuss. That's the problem. That is the number one problem, is the unscheduled things.
For a public official to come in here and discuss something with us, it's gotta be on the agenda. She brought a paper
yeah, I
down
didn't even stay.
that was printed, and Wally had forwarded it to her saying that there was an extension granted on the water compact hearings. So that was why she was down here. She can walk in and hand us that
I
paper.
understand that she
Yeah.
can walk in and do that, and I understand she can come in and have those discussions,
If
but
they're gonna have
that exact point of being, the public being made aware of that extension, rather than the phone call on Friday that says Wally won't be here because they extended the deadline, but yet Deborah came in with a letter, those are the public information that if I'm not right here at that moment, nobody's getting to know about. And
Well,
sometimes
then-
these
Then the
minutes,
public should be in here then. I'm not gonna write a letter to everybody or call
not
them on
asking you
the
to,
phone.
asking you to push a button and do a Zoom meeting. So Jamie upstairs
answer is
can
no.
do it.
And it'll be no,
Pre-schedule.
my answer will be no next week, and it'll be no the week after that.
Okay, well,
how
I'm
I
not giving up on this, and I'm going to pressure
That's-
this because
You
you're
can
not,
push it all you want,
the
and the answer
county-
will continue to be no for me.
the community is not being informed. Another problem that makes the community uninformed is when you guys are 3 and 4 weeks late on minutes.
Oh.
So now, even the public can't go and see, well, what did they discuss when so-and-so was on the agenda? So I get that you guys are busy and didn't have time to approve those minutes, but the
Juliet,
minutes are
that was something
truncating.
that doesn't happen. That was a very rare occurrence, and it was because of the transition in HR. That is not common, and that was just a very rare occurrence. And I think that you should cut us some slack on that one, because we were in a terrible transition with HR, and so they did not, that was not a top priority. But you will find that is not commonplace. You can speak to that. I see you want to say something. You can
I'm
speak.
trying to figure out how to put it in the correct order.
Okay,
So what you just gave me was, you don't want to.
That's right.
Not that you can't, not that you cannot learn, it's that you don't want to,
You
period.
don't want to,
If I was not here videotaping this, you still wouldn't want to.
right,
Okay,
still.
so you refuse to do anything more in light of all the lawsuits that are pending. You are refusing to be more transparent
Yep.
or to give the
I
opportunity
think
for the
we're fully
public.
transparent, Juliet.
No, you're not.
Yeah, we are.
No, you're not.
Yes, we are. Maybe not in your eyes.
The part about the transparency is that this county is big. We know that's 70 miles of freeway.
Yep.
Okay, so to expect residents on the West End who have been civic-minded and involved in politics in this county before to suddenly not be able to participate in any way other than to drive down here in the winter, that's your only answer. That's it. You will not concede on this in light of
I
the
will
need
not
for
do
public
Zoom.
transparency.
No, I will not.
Okay, well, I'm not gonna stop because you guys are
Well,
not
that's
as
fine.
transparent as you could be. And the community is concerned about it. And obviously, based on the amount of views I get weekly, the community is interested in seeing these meetings.
Yeah.
And the feedback I get is they would like to see them live. And when I can't be here, that opportunity is completely wiped off the list and all they get is a truncated minutes. And I think you're doing a disservice to the public.
Well, that's your opinion, and you have mine.
And that's it for me today.
All right?
Tag, you're it, Ryan.
So, under Sheriff Cashman's out on the corner call. I know the spy isn't the time or the place, because I did see that the sheriff's office was on the agenda, but we need to get approval to hire a detention officer as we're one down.
we are, and that will have to go on the agenda. The sheriff's office has not requested that. And that is the policy,
Yeah.
and we work very hard to follow that policy,
Yeah.
right, and we have to follow it.
Yeah, it's just, I mean,
I know, but they had a
Okay.
response, but the sheriff's office has to, they know the policy, they get on the agenda, they come and ask to fill the vacancy, and it is either approved or denied. And then it goes on to advertising after, if it's approved.
okay. I'm just, of course, I'm not in any position to do that, right? So, I've been pushing, and if I can make that request as sheriff-elect or the sergeant, I'll make that request to be on the agenda because, I mean, in lieu of somebody, the incident a couple weeks ago, now we're looking at another week out, so 3 weeks without a detention officer as, they've been, discharged. And then we're looking at another 3 weeks to a month to hire somebody. I mean, we're looking at 2 months.
Yep.
That we can't afford to wait.
Right, and I'm sorry, but it does have to come from the sheriff's office, even though you are sheriff-elect. So at this point, Mike or Wayne is gonna have to request to be on the agenda to do this.
Okay. So then I'll just throw this out there too, and you're gonna deny this too, but, we need to request, and I think I talked to you a couple weeks ago that you were gonna talk to Wayne about hiring for my position as come the first of the year, we're gonna be down 2, maybe 3 deputies, so when I take office, I'm gonna have possibly 3 deputies. So if we don't start the hiring process and don't hire somebody fairly soon for my vacancy is I'm gonna be handed a half a department.
Yep, and I'm sorry, Ryan, again, the sheriff's office needs to follow through and do that. So I would ask you to talk to your higher-ups, because,
I talked to you,
but I don't have the power to do that. Wayne or Mike needs to do that.
I know,
I don't do it.
Tom, I just made an assumption that when I talked to you about, who, what, where, when, how, why, that you said that you were gonna talk with Wayne.
Right, and Wayne has not
And-
come forward. But again, that is the sheriff's office. When you came to me, you're right. I threw it out there. I'm waiting to get that request. I don't make the request. I can't do that for you. You need to go to Wayne or Mike for that request.
Okay, well, I mean, I think things need to change because we're supposed to be doing stuff for the betterment of the county, and we need to like simplify how to do that, and dragging it out week after week after week after week because, you know, maybe the undersheriff's busy, I mean, he's on a corner call. But, you know, it's a disservice to the community.
But the really positive thing is, Ryan, since you're aware of it, I don't think we need to change policy, but you'll be on top of it and you'll come forward and it won't be pushed off. I mean, that's a positive way to look at it, I think.
Well, I mean, today's my day off, and literally I'll probably take an hour and a half of my day, because I felt it was super important, as I don't get the agenda. It doesn't get emailed to me on my work email or anything, I don't get it, I don't know.
If you don't get it and if you don't let HR know that or the commissioner's assistant, there's no way we know you don't get it.
So I got the agenda late last night, and I felt that it was my place to come in here and express my concerns
Yep.
over how we're doing things, because, you know, I think waiting 2 months to hire a detention officer is ridiculous.
Right. We are going to follow policy. It has been very successful in the past. It's a matter of following it. And the good thing is that you'll come in knowing the policy
Well,
and
I'll
you'll
work
be
on
able to
changing
do it. Well, that will be, that's a different topic. But Ryan, also, if all these years that you've worked here, you haven't gotten an agenda,
I just recently, probably over the last 10 months, haven't got an agenda,
Okay.
maybe 10 months to a year, it just stopped being sent.
well, because, sometimes people drop off. And again, we don't know that you drop off. So if you dropped off, we need you to tell us you're not getting the agenda and then we'll add you. And-
Check the emails.
But we have to know it. We don't know when people get dropped off. So I'm sorry you haven't been getting the agenda, but that can be fixed also, very easily. Renee will fix it today.
Guess that's all I got. Shut down.
Thank you,
Welcome to the
because
club.
you will be able to move forward, Yeah. So
I'll
that's
be
a good
I'll be a
thing.
squeaky wheel.
And
a
that's
good thing.
fine.
That's what it takes, Ryan.
All right.
You got anything, Jason?
Very little.
Oh, Jason, is this one that you had previously? Because there's nothing in your.
I can't tell you the history of it because, but I knew there was one when I was hired
Okay,
for that
sure.
job description. And that's what I have a file full of with the actually has the equipment operating the camp. It has a labor one, which we don't have a labor.
Yeah.
So I did find that, so.
Okay, so we'll
Can I borrow,
Yeah.
send this to her?
it probably needs to be updated. Jason just, this.
95?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, it can be updated, but it's pretty
Yeah.
decent. And when you,
Hey, can I have that pen back? Thank you.
I usually go.
As long as it's not in here.
Yeah, I usually stuff it in my hat now and I walk off with it, so. All right, anything else? Any road?
No, I haven't heard
Go
one.
ahead. You sound
Yeah,
look like you wanna say
I
something.
know, I did have an idea, but I'll talk to you about that idea later, because it's just an idea.
She wants to pave everything.
Yeah. Could we have a heated parking lot?
Oh, speaking of that,
Oh.
so I've got all the stuff for that, it all came in.
Good.
The problem being is this, I don't know what you can do, just put signs up for now.
How could we do that? Can you give me?
Well, we can hammer in some sign,
Yeah.
a sign, I got the sign.
I think that would be fine.
But as far as a pavement markings.
Right.
That's gonna be not.
Yeah, if you could just pound in a sign, that would be wonderful.
Just make that a next one.
Okay, thank you.
And I did get the belt on things, but we'll do that in the spring, I
Yep,
think.
that's perfect, a sign will work. We're talking about handicap parking. We want to move one closer to this entrance so people could get into the elevator. So he's got all the stuff and he's gonna take care of that.
And I'll just build that, get that built to,
Yeah.
about $600 for that. But I got a couple, I ordered two of those 4x4 melt-on handicap pavement markings. So there'll be an extra one.
Good, excellent.
I figured.
Come on in, Dave.
I figured next year you'll probably wanna do all
Oh,
the
yeah.
ones, clean them up anyway and restripe them and stuff. So you'll have that, so from both of the back to that 35 or something.
Thank you.
Other than that,
Oh, okay.
feels like it's been a good winter, but it's only the second week in December.
I
so-
know.
Winter's not here yet. Let's get with the
I know, right?
program.
If-
Yeah.
It is, there's a lot of
Well,
snow out there.
winter is officially, what, 21st, 22nd?
First day of winter.
Yeah.
That's when everything starts changing, right? So that's the shortest day of the year. So then, from there, it's supposed to keep you positive. Those days are getting longer.
Hey, you were telling me about your pickup having trouble with your engine.
Oh, yeah.
How did you know that?